Hey, what is up YouTube? It's Adam back here, and today I have another video. This time it is a showcase of my custom Jack, Rise, Thire, and Yoda minifigures. These figures, as you've seen on my channel, probably in a couple of the update videos, I've sort of been working on them for a while now. They took a lot longer just in terms of finding the motivation to finish this. It took a lot longer than I anticipated, but I'm finally able to show you the finished product, and I'm pretty happy with it, and I hope you guys will be too. I'll go one figure at a time and just show you just the amount of detail. I think these are probably some of my best figures yet, and as you can see in the last video that I made, if you want to see just how Yoda was made, you can go check that out. But if you've already seen it, you know pretty much the process behind him. But I will still be just going over some of the details since I didn't really review him in that video. So anyways, that is pretty much just the outline for how this is going to go. But I would also like to add that if you have any suggestions for the next making episode, make sure to go to the last video and upvote any of the suggestions in the comments, or drop your own suggestion, because there wasn't that much feedback in response to that question. So yeah, just make sure to do that if you really want to see a figure be made. But anyways, without further ado, let's get right into this showcase. So I figured we'd start off with two of the less prominent figures, the first of which being Rise. And this figure was pretty interesting because I've never made him with this much detail before, so I'm super excited to show you guys. So starting off with the helmet, I added the brick red color, which I've used on a lot of the characters that I've made. Pretty much, I think it is on all 4 characters in this showcase. It's a really good color just for a variety of different characters. So yeah, I used that color as the main primary red color on here. And you can see on the helmet, to start off, I painted around the visor using just reference. It pretty much was just a pretty simple paint job. And then I added some weathering to it. And then on the back of the helmet, there is some dark gray. This was a dark granite color, which is the main gray I used on the helmet on the back there and on the legs, as you'll see. And for the torso, so starting off with the accessory, the backpack is an open backpack on CAC, which I added some fabric to and painted it in this tan color. And then I added a Republic symbol on it. And then on the front, there is the electrical tape, which is supposed to mimic the backpack straps. And this, I think, turned out pretty well. I just lined it up pretty much and then cut off the excess that was hanging over the side. So I think they work pretty well and it looks really nice. And then the arms have the shoulder pads, which are sculpted with Procreate, and then the black is underneath the shoulder pads, and the red stripe is painted all the way down the shoulder pad and the arms, and the Coruscant symbol is up on the shoulder pad. The other details include the painted elbow pad and the wrist communicator and the painted hand armor. So yeah, pretty much the same thing on this side as well. And the legs have the mainly like the same detail, sort of, in terms of just mimicking what the arms are doing pretty much, with the knee pads are sculpted, painted white, and have the red stripe down the center. And there is dark gray accents on both sides of the knee pads, below it and above it. And then there is the black outlines, which wrap all the way around. And the legs are actually, or the hips are carved so the legs can move full rotation without actually destroying any of the paint. So I think that aspect is really cool about this figure too, is that he has full range of mobility, and pretty much I think all the figures do except for Yoda. Yoda's a little restricted just because of the short legs. So yeah, it would be really cool to do an action shot of these guys, I guess, is what I'm saying. um, but yeah, he just has a standard Clone Army Customs blaster as well. And that is pretty much it for Rise. So now let's move on to Jek. Alright, so here is Jek. This figure is pretty much almost the exact same as in terms of just general details that Rise had. The wraparound torso paint, the shoulder pads are the exact same, the general arm design is the same, the leg design is the same. But yeah, it's pretty much just the difference in accessories. So that'll be the main thing that I'm focusing on. And the first of which is his equipment in general. He has the minigun from Clone Army Customs and the rocket launcher. And then he also has an electrical tape strap, which is supposed to just mimic the strap he uses to carry his rocket launcher. And then the fabric cloth is a special designed cloth that I made just for him using Adobe Illustrator. So this is just supposed to mimic his actual strap that he has in the Clone Wars show. And yeah, as you can see, pretty much the only thing that's a little bit different is just the weathering on the helmet. I made it more towards the edges. It's really, really like faint. I wasn't really sure how much weathering to add on these guys, so I just kind of winged it pretty much on each individual character. And yeah, he still has the dark gray accents on the helmets and the hand armor as well, and the wrist communicator. And I think that is pretty much it. There's not too much to show with these guys, mainly just because they're pretty much the exact same figure, just made slightly different with their weapon and accessory choice. So yeah, I'm not going to drag this on too long, so let's move on to Thire. Alright, so here is Thire. This is definitely one of the best Commander Thires that I think I've made. I don't remember exactly when the last one I made was, but it definitely was not this detailed. So yeah, it pretty much just has the same base color that the other two have with the dark red. But starting off with the helmet, you can see the cheeks are painted, and then there's a dark gray line underneath that. And other than that, it's really just the gray accents with the added accent on going down the back. And then the macro binoculars, which are actually, I think they were classified as prototypes by AV Figures a while ago. They're just resin casts. They're really detailed, and if I move this down, you can see there, actually I'm going to move that up a little bit. You can see that they look really nice on him. And I really like these macros just in general. I kind of like the thick ones. I know he came out with some new thinner ones, but I kind of like these just a little bit better. But anyways, I just painted the inside with the black and the rest with the dark red. So yeah, that is pretty much the helmets. And then he has the pauldron, which is also just an old AV Figures cloth I found lying around, just because I didn't feel like designing any more cloths. So yeah, then the torso is just the same basic wrap with the dark red actually going underneath here, and just sort of like almost touching the black, but yeah, not quite. And just the dark red continues, and then it has basically three general markings on the torso: the left, right, and the center. And then the dark red going around the legs as well, with the sculpted knee pads and the dark gray accents, and just general patterns of dark red on the back of the legs. So the shoulder pads are pretty much the same as the other two clones, just the Coruscant symbol, sculpted shoulder pad, red stripe, and yeah, just general black details, and the wrist communicator. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but the wrist communicator is actually sculpted. It's just yeah, it's just pretty much painted a black and then a white. So Yeah, and the hips are carved as well, so he has a full range of motion as well, and you can move the arms without the paint scraping. So really, really nice, and he has a Clone Me Customs blaster as well. So yeah, that is Thire. Let's move on to Yoda. Alright, so here is Yoda, and I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with this figure at this point. He was featured in my last YouTube video, and yeah, just the general process for making him, it was a lot more complex than I thought it would be, which, tends to be a common theme throughout just those making videos in general. But anyways, so this figure uses the Yoda head from the Lego set, the AAT, I believe. And I think it's a good mold for this sort of just like, I don't know what you'd say, scale, I guess, a figure, just because his head and his ears are admittedly pretty gigantic compared to the rest of his body. So I think this works. But yeah, I pretty much just painted it in the base green color that I had mixed together, and then I added the dark green accents, and I even repainted his eyes, which are now hazel, but they were sand green for some reason. And the insides of his ears even have those accents as well, the top of the eyebrows, and the mouth was repainted in a black just to make it stand out, and yeah, the accents pretty much just run all over the top of his forehead. And then he has the light gray hair on the back. And other than that, pretty much just besides the jacket, it's pretty much just the torso, which was painted in a reddish brown with black accents and the dark red undershirt. And then the reddish brown legs, which I added the green color to as well to mimic his sort of feet. And I was originally going to sculpt those toes or feet, but I really just didn't think that there would be room, and I was sort of correct on that because they would have definitely interfered with the jacket. But speaking of the jacket, so the robes or jacket are painted in a tan color, and I think that tan color was called khaki. But yeah, it's a pretty good apple barrel color for this. And the rest of it, I mean, it was entirely sculpted out of Procreate, but the rest of it is just painted in that color. And it has the little, I don't even know what to call them, just the tops of the robes have this Procreate going around it to mimic the hood as well. And yeah, the arms were also sculpted just to add some more buffness, I guess, to it, and were painted in the same khaki color. And then the hands were painted the green, and I gave him a couple light gray accents on the sides just to mimic his sort of like fingernails, I guess you would say. But the arms can move, and the hands can connect to accessories, as you can see. So I think it works pretty well. The only thing that doesn't really have any mobility is his legs, but that's for obvious reasons, mainly being that they're the old short legs mold. But yeah, I think this figure turned out good. There's certainly, it's definitely my best Jedi figure, but there are certainly some roughness just in general with sculpting Procreate like entire robes, and I think that's definitely something that I could fix in the future, but I'm pretty happy with it. It mostly just blends in as sort of just weathering, which works for me. Not every figure, especially at my customizing level, which is relatively still not great. There's going to be some imperfections, if I can say that word, and I think this just sort of demonstrates that I still do have some sculpting ability, at least. So yeah, you guys can let me know your thoughts on this figure down below, and the rest of the figures, but that is pretty much it. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more, and this is goodbye, and have a nice day.